Thank you for joining us today for another presentation of Let the Bible Speak with your speaker, Brett Hickey.
Good morning. Thank you for watching Let the Bible Speak. We're blessed to have a guest speaker, Aaron Studdard, a good friend and gospel preacher from Piedmont, Alabama. His text will be taken from Psalm 8, verse 3. What is man after our song?
Over 2,000 years ago, King David wrote in Psalms 8, verse 3, "When I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have ordained, what is man that you are mindful of him, and the son of man that you visit him?" As a youth tending his father's flocks, David must have found himself under the vast canopy of the night sky on many occasions. I can picture him reclining on the grass, gazing upward at the night sky with all of its twinkling stars, contemplating the magnificence of the God in whom he trusted. As you gaze deep into the expanse of the night sky with all the brilliance of countless stars, do you consider God? As Christians, it's easy to become entrenched in the defense of our doctrine and the rebuttal of false teachings, and in so doing inadvertently lose sight of the broader perspective of our fundamental identity as human beings and our purpose in this world. It reminds me of the old adage of not seeing the forest for the trees. This was also a concern addressed to the church at Ephesus, as Jesus prompted John to write, "I know your works, your labor, your patience, and that you cannot bear those who are evil. And you've tested those who say they are apostles and are not, and have found them liars. And you have persevered and have patience and have labored for my name's sake and have not become weary. Nevertheless, I have this against you, that you have left your first love." Revelation chapter 2, verses 2 through 4. As stated in 1 John chapter 4, verse 19, our first love refers to the one who loved us from the beginning. The Bible emphasizes God's love for humanity and reveals that we were created by Him for His good pleasure in verses such as Luke chapter 12, verse 32, also in Ephesians chapter 1, verses 5 and 9, and again in Philippians chapter 2, verse 13. Thus we understand that our fundamental purpose in existence is to glorify and honor our God through the conduct of our lives on earth. In the scene of the throne room of heaven in Revelation chapter 4, verse 11, we find 24 elders falling down at the throne saying, "You are worthy, O Lord, to receive glory and honor and power, For you created all things, and by your will they exist and were created. Thus, in all heaven and earth, God's creation exists to glorify and honor Him, the Creator, for that is His good pleasure. But in our current society today, self-centeredness and short-sightedness often dominate our perspective, with a focus on our own personal pleasures. Yet God, in His mercy and patience and His grace, desires for men to repent and to serve Him. So understanding our purpose as God's creation is crucial. And today I want to address our origin. In Genesis chapter 1, verse 26, God said, "Let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth." So God created man in His own image. In the image of God, He created him. Male and female, He created them. We have a threefold statement in verse 27 telling us emphatically, man was created. For many centuries, men accepted this universal truth without debate. But in 1831, a man by the name of Charles Darwin received an invitation to serve as the naturalist aboard the British vessel, the HMS Beagle. The primary purpose of the trip was to survey the coastline and harbors of South America in order to make better maps and protect the British interest in the Americas. In addition to the ship's official mission, however, it was understood that Darwin was to make scientific observations while the ship systematically measured the ocean depths. Darwin went ashore to explore and collect specimens in this trip, and in fact, 2/3 of Darwin's time was actually spent on dry land, largely in the South American wilderness, in remote areas such as the Galapagos Islands. By any measure, Darwin's labors were hugely successful. He brought back specimens of more than 1,500 species, hundreds of which had never been seen before in Europe. Many evolutionists suggest that Charles Darwin's discoveries led him inevitably to the theory of natural selection as expounded in his renowned work on the origin of species by means of natural selection. This narrative implies that evidence alone drove the formulation of the theory. However, it's important, too, to note that Darwin had already begun questioning the existence of God before this voyage ever set sail. In 1876, in an autobiography, Darwin reflected, "Disbelief crept over me at a very slow rate, but was at last complete. The rate was so slow that I felt no distress and have never since doubted, even for a single second, that my conclusion was correct." Published in November of 1859, 23 years after the voyage of the Beagle, Darwin's concepts of biological evolution through natural selection, commonly known as Darwinism, gained traction among secular scholars. Over time, it became the predominant explanation for the origin of species, effectively excluding the notion of our Creator God from the explanations of natural phenomena. For 165 years since, evolutionists, humanists, skeptics, and atheists have constructed a narrative detailing the ascent of humanity from organic matter to become rational, conscientious, emotional, and spiritual beings, positioning us among the diverse organisms of the animal kingdom. Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 29 says, "Truly this only have I found. God made man upright, but they have sought out many schemes." And one of those schemes was revealed in 1965 when Time Life Books published a significant mural titled "The Road to Homo Sapiens." As part of a larger book entitled Early Man, this mural featured a sequence of humanoid figures, starting with an ape-like figure walking on all fours, gradually transitioning to more upright and less hairy figures, culminating eventually in Homo sapiens, depicted at the front of the line. This iconic image was widely interpreted as illustrating the chronological progression of human history. It gained immense popularity and remains prominent in natural history museums and biology textbooks all across our country. It was even distributed to public school teachers for classroom display, subtly imprinting the idea as factual upon the minds of children across the United States. However, what many fail to realize is that the dates depicted in this sequence were presented as uniformly progressive, which is not accurate at all. Furthermore, the images were artistic representations based on the imagination of the artist rather than concrete evidence. Despite lacking scientific basis, the progression from Paleopithecus to modern man was widely accepted by the American public. This portrayal reinforced the theory of evolution as the most influential argument against the existence of God and the validity of the Bible. In 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 4, Paul said, "The weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty in God for pulling down strongholds, casting down arguments, and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God." Evolution's stronghold on society needs to be pulled down. The argument against the Almighty Creator needs to be cast down. In Genesis chapter 1, verse 26 tells us that man was created in the image and likeness of God. But what does this really mean? Essentially, it suggests that God designed mankind with certain attributes comparable to his own, enabling humans to relate to him better. For instance, God communicates. He speaks, as seen in Genesis chapter 1, when he commanded his creation, "Let there be light." Similarly, humans have the capacity for language and writing, enabling the preservation of knowledge across generations. Moreover, humans exhibit creativity, evident in our pursuits of art and architecture and music. We possess the ability to reason, considering outcomes of our decisions beyond mere instinct like the animal kingdom. Additionally, humans possess a moral compass, discerning right and wrong, guided by conscience. Unlike any other species, humans experience a wide range of emotions reflecting our complex nature. Most significantly, though, humans demonstrate spiritual and religious inclination, a trait not driven by evolutionary necessity. Why do we possess these attributes? Because humans possess an immortal soul that belongs to God, which he bestowed upon mankind for his own pleasure and glory, thus setting us apart from the rest of creation. Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 7 says, "Then shall the dust return to the earth as it was, and the spirit shall return unto God who gave it." Numerous misconceptions have been embraced as factual regarding evolution. It's essential to understand that the theory of evolution doesn't even stem from genuine scientific inquiry, but rather originated from a predetermined belief system that excluded the notion of God. Science typically involves systematic observation, repeatable methodologies, data collection, and none of these are feasible within the realm of evolution. According to scientific standards, a theory must explain natural phenomenon validated through repeatable observation and experimentation. However, evolution has been sustained by piles of assumptions, conjectures, and lack of substantial evidence, and using this to support its claims. The Apostle Paul again wrote in Colossians chapter 2, verse 8, "Beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit, after the traditions of men and after the rudiments of the world, and not after Christ." I want to present to you today 3 thoughts that are difficult to reconcile when we consider evolution in the realm of objective science. Firstly, the field of genetics emerged in the mid-19th century with Gregor Mendel's pioneering studies. Subsequently, DNA was discovered by scientists a century later, leading to significant advancements in understanding the functioning of this fundamental molecule of life over the last 50 years. Although genetic mutations are relatively rare, they do occur when the genetic code is altered. Scientists often highlight beneficial mutations in living organisms as the source of evolutionary diversity. But what is less frequently discussed is that 76% of these mutations have been found to be fatal to the cell in which they occur. Additionally, 23% have been found to have a neutral effect, that is, not being expressed, and only 1.3% can be categorized as truly beneficial. Now, considering that the majority of genetic mutations are recessive, meaning they're not expressed when paired with a dominant allele, it becomes evident that for a beneficial mutation to persist, both male and female organisms would need to simultaneously and beneficially mutate the same allele on their genetic code. They would then need to find each other, mate, and pass on that recessive mutated gene to their offspring. This highlights the complexity of sexual reproduction, which requires 2 organisms that are different in gender but possess complementary chromosomes. Theoretical geneticists have calculated that for 1 generation of a species to experience a beneficial genetic mutation that becomes a permanent genetic substitution would necessitate 30 times the number of individuals in that generation. Moreover, the number of modifications required to create a new species by genetic mutation is substantial. For instance, humans would hypothetically require 150 billion predecessors, far surpassing the mere 15 predecessors depicted in the iconic Road to Homo sapiens image. Renowned evolutionist Stephen Jay Gould acknowledged that it would necessitate a staggering 60 trillion contingent sequential events of evolutionary process to produce humans. He described our existence then as a glorious accident. However, as believers, we affirm that we are not accidents. Rather, God intricately designed our genetic code to produce precisely what it does, as beautifully articulated in Psalm 139, verses 13 through 16. For you formed my inward parts. You covered me in my mother's womb. I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works, and that my soul knows very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in secret and skillfully wrought in the lowest parts of the earth. Your eyes saw my substance, being yet unformed, and in your book they all were written, the days fashioned for me, when as yet there were none of them. Well, secondly, there are other implausible assumptions concerning evolution. Let's talk about time for a moment. No one has ever witnessed the emergence of an entirely new species known as macroevolution. Furthermore, Charles Darwin raised the lack of transitional fossils as a possible objection to his own theory. He asked, why, if species have descended from other species by fine gradations, do we not everywhere see innumerable transitional forms? Later in his landmark book, he expressed hope that future discoveries would be made of these transitional forms or of creatures that showed some transitional structure, perhaps a half scale or a half feather. But even after 150 years of frantic searching for elusive transitions, not only is there no single undisputed transitional species, but real fossils reveal that animals were fully formed from the beginning. When traversing the layers of the fossil record, complex life forms seem to suddenly appear in what scientists have termed the Cambrian explosion, a phenomenon Darwin famously dubbed as an abominable mystery. In response, scientists proposed punctuated equilibrium. That suggests that there were prolonged periods of genetic stasis followed by bursts of genetic variation during the Cambrian period. However, considering the limitations of beneficial mutations, which we've already discussed, does this theory hold logical coherence? Even with the universe's estimated age of 26.7 billion years, the timeline that would be required to enact 60 trillion contingent evolutionary changes remains implausible. The Bible states, "For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, and on the seventh day he rested." Exodus chapter 20, verse 11. Some argue that a day in this context signifies an indeterminate length of time. And yet, why would the writer use this language if not intended literally? I mean, if describing numerous modifications over vast time spans, couldn't the Bible employ language like that used when discussing Abraham's seed, likening it to the dust of the earth in Genesis chapter 13 and verse 16? Moreover, the inclusion of the term the evening and the morning for each of the 6 creation days in Genesis indicates literal days, not indefinite epochs of time as emphasized by some. Paul said in 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 3, according to their own desires, because they have itching ears, they will heap up for themselves teachers, and they will turn their ears away from the truth and be turned aside to fables. Thirdly, today, the concept of irreducible complexity presents a challenge to evolution. Irreducible complexity predicates that a system must possess a minimum number of components functioning together to sustain life. For instance, consider the simplest organisms, such as the bacteria of the genus Mycoplasma, which require hundreds of interworking parts just to survive. How did each of those parts evolve independently without the others? Moreover, complex anatomical structures in animals like the 4-chambered heart or a digestive system raise questions about evolutionary origin. How did components such as the mouth evolve without the esophagus, or the small intestine without the stomach? In nature, there exist organisms which share in symbiotic relationships where both parties depend on each other for survival. How do these organisms survive if both are not fully functional simultaneously in the same environment? The existence of numerous irreducibly complex systems challenges the notion that they evolve through gradual processes, as multiple components must have been functional simultaneously for the system to ever operate effectively. The debate between the theory of evolution and the concept of creation by God has been a long-standing one, marked by inconsistencies in the evolutionary model. Despite its popularity in scholarly circles, evolution faces many challenges in accounting for the origin of life itself, the emergence of complex biological systems, and the existence of irreducibly complex structures. Furthermore, the fossil record lacks transitional forms that support the gradual development of species as proposed by evolution. In contrast, creation by God provides a coherent explanation for the complexity and diversity of life, attributing it to a purposeful design by an intelligent creator. The intricate beauty and functionality observed in nature points to a divine architect who created you and me with the ability to discover Him. Friends, as we conclude, I urge you to reflect on the concept of creation by an almighty creator. The intricate order evident in our universe and world strongly suggests design, and where there is design, there must be a designer. Let us contemplate the profound implications of this truth as we seek understanding. I'm reminded that at the conclusion of the creation week in Genesis chapter 1 and verse 31, God saw everything that He had made, and behold, it was very good. God created man. He bestowed upon him physical, mental, and spiritual traits unlike anything else in the animal kingdom, and then gave man honor and authority over the rest of the world which He had also created. The psalmist concludes in Psalms 8, verse 5, "For you have made him a little lower than the angels, and you've crowned him with glory and honor. You've made him to have dominion over the works of your hands. You have put all things under his feet, all sheep and oxen, even the beasts of the field, the birds of the air and the fish of the sea that pass through the paths of the seas." Isaiah said when speaking to Israel, "For God, everyone who is called by my name, whom I've created for my glory, I have formed him. Yes, I have made him." Isaiah 43, verse 7. We will be right back with a few closing words after our song.
We're so glad that you joined us today, and we appreciate very much Brother Aaron Studdard for his excellent message on such an important topic in the day in which we live. You know, we're in a series now where we're addressing topics like this, topics that address Christian evidences and the fact that you can believe in Bible and science when true science is compared to the Bible. You'll never find any contradictions. They both are ostensibly designed to seek the truth. That's what Linus Pauling said about science. And the Bible, it's all about the truth, the central character. Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And so as you watch this video, as you read this transcript, we hope you will meditate on these topics and that you'll also notice some of our other 1 minute or at least brief videos on these topics that will be available on our website, letthebiblespeak.com. We hope you'll watch Let the Bible Speak each Lord's Day and join us for worship at one of the congregations that will be listed shortly. You can contact us to receive by email or by regular mail a copy of number 1458, What is Man? We close with the words the Apostle Paul issued in Romans 16, verse 16. The churches of Christ salute you. Until next week, goodbye, and may God bless you.